Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you all for tuning in. Tonight, I want to rank the studio albums from Joe Perry, the Joe Perry Project, and his solo albums. There's 6 altogether. So, I generally find myself to be a fan of Joe Perry's solo material. I've always kind of enjoyed it. I think some are better than others, but I'm going to go over them and rank them from my least favorite to my favorite tonight. So, coming in at the bottom. The only one that I don't own is Switzerland Manifesto. Switzerland, is that what it's called? It's a weird title, and it's a weird album. Man, I really hate to say this about Joe, but in all honesty, this is probably one of the worst albums I've ever tried to listen to in my life. Like, there is nothing. There was no guitar riffs or solos that I thought was interesting. I didn't care for the sound. I didn't think he chose very good singers. I mean, not that the singers were bad, but it just didn't fit, like, with Joe. It just was a really bizarre mishmash of guitar work and vocals and Joe Perry, and kind of like what I expect from Joe is like this really cool bluesy hard rock, and it was, I don't really know how I would describe it. It was just weird, man. It was just, I mean, I guess you could say it was bluesy hard rock, but it was just not good. I don't know. If anybody out there likes this album and gets it, more power to you. But honestly, uh, I didn't like it. I didn't like it, and I hate to say that about Joe because I love Joe Perry. But he did release this year a Mach 2 version of Switzerland Manifesto, and it's still not a very good album, but it's better. There were some other songs. There was, like, I think maybe 4 or 5 songs from the original album, and then there were like 4 or 5 different songs on it. The ones that were different were better. But the only song I would say that I kind of liked was Quake, that had Gary Cherone on vocals. And I wouldn't go as far to say it was like one of my favorite Joe Perry songs or anything like that, but it was a decent song. And it was better, but it still was not a very good album in my opinion. So I'm sorry, Joe, but I'm just not I'm not really getting into the Switzerland Manifesto thing, so not my thing. Coming in at number 5, I'm gonna go with Joe Perry's self-titled from 2005. Aside from the fairly cheap-looking album cover, but that is a pretty cool shot of Joe, I gotta say. The picture of Joe's pretty cool, but like the background, the black fading into the red, kind of looks like something I would come up with in Paint on my computer. But otherwise, there's some really cool stuff on here. I just think bogged down with some filler as well. Shake on My Cage was a really, really cool song. Hold On Me was pretty cool. Can't Compare, I think, is one of the best songs on here. Really dig that one as well. Lonely. What was the instrumental? There was an instrumental on here, and I forget which track it was. It was somewhere down the stretch, man. I haven't listened to this album in a while, so I know there was an instrumental in here that I dug. I just forget which track it was. But, like, I'm not a fan. I'm not big on Pray For Me. Crystal Ship, I never really cared for that song, even the original version. I'm not a big Doors guy. And this version, to me, is no different. Not really that into it. And then, down the stretch, there were some tracks I didn't really care that much for as well. But I think the first part of this album, aside from those couple tracks I mentioned, is really good. Shaking My Cage, Hold On Me, Can't Compare, Lonely. So, a lot of good stuff, really kicking this thing off. And down the stretch, I know there's an instrumental somewhere later on this album. I just forget exactly which one it was that I really liked. So, Joe Perry's self-titled. Also, for Joe Perry, I gotta say, like, I like it when Joe sings. He's not really a good singer, but it works for me. But it's too much when he does the whole album. Like, I think he's best off when he splits vocals with somebody else. So, that would be my other nitpick with this one right here. But all in all, this is still a pretty decent album. Joe Perry, self-titled from 05. Coming in at number 4, and I actually really liked this one when it came out. Maybe I don't like it quite as much anymore as I did then, but I really dug this when it came out. That was Have Guitar Will Travel, came out in 2009. There's still some songs on here I really like. The first song, We've Got a Long Way to Go, great song. I love that song to this day. Slingshot is one of those songs that Joe Perry sings. He sings it almost monotone, but he just throws this attitude into it, and the riff is really cool. It just makes it work. Somebody's Gonna Get Their Head Kicked in the Night is kind of cool. Scared the Cat's pretty cool. There's not really a bad song on here, but I would say the rest of the tracks are just sort of okay. And I gotta say, I gotta look this guy's name up because I forget. The singer on this album, he's referred to only as Hagen. He's a good singer, man. I remember this is about the time, I think it was like the next year after this came out, and Steven Tyler joined American Idol, and there was friction between Steven and the rest of Aerosmith about that, and Joe said something or was asked something about, like, the band wanted to go out and do something, but Steven was off doing American Idol and they were frustrated with it. And even though this could never happen, somehow someone brought up the idea about Aerosmith moving on from Steven Tyler, which would be career suicide, honestly, if you did that. Just keeping it real. But if they were to do that and they were going to try and do something without Steven Tyler, this Hagen guy would be the guy that they should get because he has a great voice. He even sounds a lot like Steven. I just wouldn't call it Aerosmith at that point, obviously. But that's the guy that you would get because I think he sounds a lot like Steven Tyler, to be honest with you. He sounds really good. And he sounds a lot like Steven naturally. It's not like, I never get the impression that he's trying to be like Steven Tyler. He just naturally sounds like him. And he doesn't try to do all the sort of quirky vocal styles that Steven Tyler does. He just sort of sings the track the way the track should be sung, and I gotta appreciate that because nobody can copy Steven Tyler's personality. He is truly one of a kind. So that's in many ways also why I would say you can't replace Steven in Aerosmith as well. But I remember thinking that, like, if Aerosmith was ever going to do something without Steven, you would have to rebrand it for one. But for two, that Hagen guy that's the vocalist on here, that's who you get because he's really good. I really enjoyed his voice on here. Works great with Joe's. And like I was just saying, him and Joe splitting the tracks on here, that's like exactly what I want from a Joe Perry album. Coming in at number 3, I'm going to go with Once a Rocker, Always a Rocker. Joe's third and final Joe Perry project album before he rejoined Aerosmith. And they really sort of rebranded the Joe Perry project for this one here. Changed the sound up, changed the lineup. Almost feels like they're trying to go for almost like a Quiet Riot sort of a deal on here. Sort of hair metal-y, glam metal-y, whatever you want to call it. But some really good songs. I love the title track, Once a Rocker, really cool song. Black Velvet Pants, I like a lot. King of Kings is really good. I like the T-Rex cover, Bang a Gong. The album Closer, Never Want to Stop, I like a lot. I don't think there's a bad song on here. I would just say that the songs in the middle are just sort of the ones that don't really stand out to me as much. But all in all, a pretty good album. I don't think it quite lives up to Joe's first two. And Joe doesn't sing any songs on here. I just want to make sure I got... Cowboy Mock Bell is the name of the singer on this album. And he almost kind of looks like a Dee Snider reject, doesn't he? I don't know what style he was going for there, but he almost looked like he got kicked out of Twisted Sister in the middle of the night or something. But he does a good job singing. He's not a bad singer, but Joe doesn't sing anything on this album, and I think it would have been weird. This album doesn't really sound like it's suited for Joe's voice, and I can't imagine Cowboy and Joe, that I don't know that those two singers would sound that good together. But all in all, this is still a pretty good album. Once a Rocker, Always a Rocker. Really love the title track. It's like my favorite song on here. Good album. Doesn't quite live up to the first two, though. Coming in at number 2, maybe a little bit of a hot take, but here we go. Let the Music Do the Talking. Joe Perry's first solo album, first Joe Perry project album. Killer album. Great stuff. Solid record. Let the Music Do the Talking, I love. Conflict of Interest might be my favorite track on the album. I love that song. Sung by Joe, of course. Discount Dogs is really cool. Shooting Star. Break Song, the instrumental, I love. Rockin' Train's a lot of fun. The Mist is Rising. Ready on the Firing Lines. And then Life at a Glance. Kick-ass song at the end of the album. I love that one. Especially the way that Joe Perry and Ralph Morman go back and forth on the vocals. Joe and Ralph sound good together. That's probably like my favorite singer combination with Joe was Ralph Morman. I mean, Hagen would be right there, but I just think those two sounded good together. It's a shame that he didn't get Ralph Morman to come back for another Joe Perry project album, because I do like him as a singer. I think it fits really, really well. but let the music do the talking. It's my number 2. My favorite, maybe a bit of a hot take, but I like this one quite a bit right here. I've got the Rock and Rolls Again. Really cool album. Really, really raw. It's almost like, it took me a while to kind of get into this and appreciate it, but the vocals on this album feel like they were recorded in like one take, live on stage. It has a really live, raw feel to it, but I think that actually kind of adds to the charm a little bit. You got Charlie Farron is on vocals. He's a decent singer. I like Ralph Mormon a little bit better, but he's still a pretty good singer. Joe sings a few of the songs on here as well. I really love the first half of this album. East Coast, West Coast is a lot of fun. No Substitute for Arrogance has a really cool riff. And then the vocals on there take a little bit to get used to, but I've kind of grown to like it, actually. I've got the Rock and Rolls Again. It's kind of silly, but it's a lot of fun. Really fast-paced, rock and bluesy track. A lot of fun. Buzz Buzz I like as well. Soldier of Fortune, sung by Joe, is cool. Got TV Police is a fairly heavy song. Listen to the Rock. Dirty Little Things, Play the Game. And my favorite Joe Perry song, excluding anything he did with Aerosmith, my favorite Joe Perry project or Joe Perry solo song, South Station Blues. Cool song. Always love Joe's playing the song. Joe sings it, of course, as well. Killer song. So there you have it. My favorite Joe Perry project album. I've got the Rock and Rolls Again. Let me know in the comments how you would rank Joe Perry's solo albums. If you like this kind of content, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos in the future, and I'll catch you next time.